Oh, yeah, we're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the trend zone. Casey here with Dave. We are the football dudes. Dave, are you ready, bro?
Championship weekend ready, my friend. Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Next stop is the trend zone. It is Wednesday, January 22nd, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Hey, Dave, it's the middle of winter, baby, but it's a beautiful 73 degrees up here in the Sherm.
Not too bad. 69 here down on the west side, so not
Seems to be
complaining too much.
69 down there quite often, dude. I don't know, bro.
Coincidence? Hmm?
In today's episode, we'll talk about a couple ejections on the coaching carousel, a little bit of the survivor, a touch the national championship at the collegiate level, the 12-team playoff, and of course, we will preview the championship games from conference
Ooh.
championship weekend. So tasty. Speaking of tasty, Dave, can't take a trip through the zone without some tasty nugs for the people. What you got?
Yeah, this one's a little bit for me, but let's start it off with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the fourth team to go back-to-back champions as Super Bowl champions to reach the conference championship. That is, they are other teams that did it: Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, um, Kansas City Chiefs, fourth reigning back-to-back Super Bowl champion to reach the conference championship game in that follow-up season.
Trying to get back to back to back, Jack. We
Trying
will
to get to the
see.
first, they will be the first one to get to that Super Bowl if they are able to achieve that feat. Additionally, that would be it. They would become the fourth team to reach three consecutive Super Bowls. That would be the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. All got to three straight, but did not win three straight. So that's the difference there.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty tricky getting to the Super Bowl. You play all those extra games over 3
Yeah,
years. That's
yeah.
almost a full season for these Chiefs, man, and the Bills for that matter.
Yes, and just to balance it out, thanks for mentioning the Bills. They, including the playoffs, they have a plus 27 turnover differential. That's 35 takeaways, just 8 giveaways this season. They can be the first team ever with less than 10 turnovers in the season and finish among the top 10 with the best turnover differentials in NFL history. That is including postseason. As they are right now, if they were to not turn it over and they have 8 turnovers on the year, that would be, including postseason, an NFL historical record for the Bills. We'll see if they can just not turn that football over and hold on to that. That's an amazingly low number of turnovers for a season,
Yeah,
including the
dude.
postseason.
I think they won the turnover battle in every game this season. So,
Mind blowing.
yeah,
Certainly
it's
helps to win the turnover battle. Let's hope they can keep that going.
I bet you hope so. But I want to remind you folks out there, the Trend Zone is available for subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever the hell you get your podcasts. All right, Dave, it is the coaching carousel. Some of them seats are getting filled up. We had
Yep.
7 vacancies going into the offseason. The Jets, Saints, Bears, Patriots, Jags, Raiders, Cowboys, Patriots hired Mike Vrabel, and the Bears, they've got their guy, and they took him right from the Lions, baby.
Ooh, how about that, man? Bears get their guy. It is offensive coordinator Ben Johnson from the Lions, and he was very coveted over the last handful of seasons as he uh, was at the helm of that amazing offensive juggernaut that the Lions have been the last couple of seasons. It's very cool. He obviously liked the idea of coaching Caleb Williams in that second season, and Caleb Williams obviously is pretty excited about the situation as well.
Yeah, dude, and that's the finality of the season. We'll get into a little bit of that
Ooh.
Lions Commanders game. They lose on Saturday night. They lose Ben Johnson. They also lose their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, the Jets go ahead and hire Aaron Glenn to be their head coach. He actually was drafted by the Jets and played 9 years there. He's going to take over for Robert Saleh there. So we'll see how he can do. He yeah, he was a first rounder for them. So he was a pretty good player and obviously had a pretty good defense there with the Lions, but kind of fell apart right there at the end. That didn't really count against him. So uh, good job, Glenn, getting to this opportunity. He said he's not going to just be a defensive coach, he's a coach, head coach. So looking good there for the Jets.
And it'll be interesting to see if they pluck any more of that Lions staff. Baby, less
Yeah.
than a week away, dude. You lose the game. Now you lose your coordinators. The cycle never stops churning, dude.
One more thing. The Lions do get back two third-round compensatory picks as a result of losing a minority coach, moving on to another team and becoming their head coach. So they'll be getting picks in 2025 and 2026. There'll be compensatory picks at the end of the third round of each of those next two drafts.
Man, if they keep hitting like they have the last couple
Right.
years, they're going to put
Those
those
are
guys
big picks.
right to work.
Those are
Oh, heck
valuable
yeah.
picks.
And Dave, let's go ahead and keep this in the NFC North. The Vikings had their dude. They just paid him a little bit more cash.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell was, on the end of the original deal. This was an absolute no-brainer as his contract coming to a close. It was probably just a matter of how much money, and the money that was rumored to have been floating around for some of these other candidates. I'm sure this guy has two straight 13 win seasons with the Vikings organization. I mean, hello, you're definitely going to pay this guy whatever the going rate is to keep him on board. He is an offensive genius, kind of super mind. He's got it going on. He is just, man, the Vikings are stoked to have him locked down. Other teams wanted to trade for him. No, thank you. We're going to keep O'Connell here. He's doing some good stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they move forward with Darnold and JJ coming back from the
Decisions. Yeah.
injury. Yeah, lots of moves to be made for those
Yep.
Vikings. All right, Dave, they're not head coaches, but coordinators are also getting jobs out there. How about the Colts?
The Colts get Lou Anarumo a couple of years ago. He was a hot name to be a head coaching candidate when he had uh, been there, the defensive coordinator that got the Bengals into the Super Bowl with some really nice defensive performances there. But fell out of favor there in Cincinnati, and one man's trash is another man's treasure. The Colts are very excited to have him on board, and so he'll be manning that Colts team on the other side, replacing Gus Bradley.
And dude, I think this is maybe his third different stint with the New England Patriots.
Oh, that's right. It will be Patriots hiring Josh McDaniels as the OC there. Yeah, right. He was there in 06 through 08, in 12 through 21. He, of course, had two head coaching stints, one with the Broncos, one with the Raiders, and now he'll be back on staff there in New England trying to help develop Drake May.
All right. And the Bengals, you mentioned they're getting new coordinator too.
Yeah, that is Al Golden. Unfortunately, they stole him away from the Fighting Irish there. It was a pretty good defense that the Irish
Mhm.
had put on the field for the last handful of years under the leadership of Al Golden. He was also, of course, a head coach for Temple in Miami previous to that. But he was way back. He was a linebackers coach at Cincinnati. So it's sort of a long journey back home. But now he's the head man there in terms of the defense.
All right. And not coordinators now get the musical chairs with the GMs, the Titans, like their new hire.
Mike Borgonzi replaces Rand Carthon, and he has been with the Chiefs for a handful of years. Last 4 years, he was the assistant GM there. So the Chiefs have drafted exceptionally well for the time that he's been. He's there since 2009. So we're talking 16 years basically that he's been associated with that team. That, like I said, drafted very, very well, very consistently well. So nice job for Tennessee getting that guy for sure.
And the Raiders have their new general manager too.
Yeah, assistant GM John Spytek. He was with the Buccaneers as the assistant GM. He's going to be heading up the gig there, replacing Tom Telesco. One and done for Tom Telesco there, the former Chargers, now former Raiders general manager. We'll see what Spytek can do for the Raiders. Obviously, they're picking six there, so there's a pretty nice spot there to get a good player. Do they have their quarterback? What are they going to do? Is there a quarterback on the free agent market or trade market? That might be a guy that they have. So he's got some work cut out for him right now.
And Spytech, that's a cool ass name. It
It is a
sounds
fun
like
name. Yeah, but put that guy with the Raiders and Tom Brady, mind you. And there is a Tom Brady connection there, as he was associated with Tampa Bay when Tom Brady was there. Blah blah blah. So we obviously we know that Tom Brady's hands are in on this whole process for the
Mhm.
Raiders. They need to get their head coach in there, and they need to make a boatload of decisions. It's a tough division right now to be crawling up from the bottom of.
And the Shags, baby, they don't have their coach yet, and they just got rid of their GM too.
These guys are going the wrong direction, apparently. But yeah, it was a delayed reaction here, a super delayed reaction to get rid of um, the general manager there, Trent Baalke. It is.
Wait, from Perfect Strangers, they kept Cousin Larry?
I don't know where that reference comes from, Casey, but I'm sure other folks do. Um, Ethan Waugh will serve as interim
Hang on,
general manager.
what?
Waugh,
Okay.
exactly. Now they obviously have to find a GM and a head coach. They're up against it. That's a franchise that has kind of been, yeah. At least they have Trevor Lawrence. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lack of talent on that team,
Yeah.
but they have just underperformed. So you blow it up
Yes.
from the inside, keep those
Yep.
players, and get
Yeah.
rid of the GM and the coach. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. All
Yep.
right, Dave. Monday night on the 20th, we had college football, the latest it's ever gone, the
Ooh.
national championship. Ohio State Buckeyes over your Notre Dame Fighting Irish 34-23. Turned into a pretty good game. Give me
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on that, and then give me your thoughts
Yeah.
on the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, if I'd have turned the TV off after the first 15 minutes, woo, I'd have been stoked because, of course, I'm a Fighting Irish fan. However, yeah, that first drive was awesome. The amazing comeback from Ohio State, and they really are such a talented football team. But it was a great football game, all said and done. It went back and forth a little bit. It did have some drama towards the end, um, but it certainly. The 12-team playoff as it's in its entirety. I think obviously the first round was a little bit of blowouts and stuff, but man, that really the four teams that made it to the final four wouldn't have been the four teams
Mhm.
selected in the traditional method of selecting teams. So I think right there it shows you that this is a better method than the previous one, and also those decisions were made by guys getting out on the field and playing football games. That
Yeah.
stokes me out because I watched every single one of these things from start to finish. And
Mhm.
the only thing I would say is maybe we tweak the way that the seeding works.
Yeah.
But I love the hosting of that first round game at the stadiums of those teams. That I thought brought an amazing energy to those games. All in all, an enormous success to have, instead of 3 games with the 4-team playoffs, you've got these 11 games or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
fantastic.
And then maybe you make that second round game on the home side. So teams that are on the bye, they get to host that game. Maybe do the bowl games in the first round, and then the teams on the bye, because those guys all got blowed out and
Yeah.
lost those games. But maybe if they were home games for them, it might make a difference getting the bye. They'll tweak it. Maybe not this year, but
Hmm.
a million times better than anything we've ever had before. It was
I
totally
loved it.
awesome. It's more football. And don't forget, man, all the impatient fan bases, they wanted Day and Freeman fired even maybe as early as a month and a half ago. So pump the brakes, just shit canning everybody and moving
Right.
on isn't always the answer. Sometimes it takes a little while to develop, but
One other thing too, that when dudes are playing for a playoff with the opportunity to win a national title, they're not as inclined to sit out and say, you know what, I'm going to save myself because I'm prepping for the draft. Um, Instead, they want to get out there and perform, and that's it shows off what they can do on the major stages,
yeah.
but also it lets us see these guys rather than
Oh,
it
yeah.
being some kind of like, this bowl game's not that important.
Yeah, totally. No, it's a total
Massive
success.
motivator for all those talented dudes that are definitely
100%.
there's going to be a ton of those guys from that 12 team playoff that will go to the NFL draft this year, and
Yeah.
all of them basically played in their game.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, man. And it just you could see it on the field. Totally stoked.
Yep.
All right, Dave, let's go ahead and switch this over to the NFL. Some Survivor 3 strikes for anybody that is still
Nuts.
out there. What was the most popular pick last week?
Kansas City over Houston was the pick, Casey, for last week. Last week's most popular incorrect pick, you would no surprise here. Detroit beating Washington. Obviously, that didn't pan out for those who had Detroit.
And if you used up the Chiefs last week, that means you don't think they're winning the Super Bowl. So, Dave, what
That's
is
right.
the most popular pick going into this week?
Interestingly enough, it is Washington to beat Philadelphia, and I think people are trying to game plan the entire remaining portion of the season. If you made it this far, yeah. So if you pick Philadelphia, or excuse me, any of the other teams, for example, then you can't pick them to win the Super Bowl. So I'm guessing people are thinking that Philly's going to sneak by, or that Washington's going to sneak by Philly and then lose to either the Bills or the Chiefs. That's how I would look at this number and say, hey, it's 40%. So
Wow.
a
Yeah.
lot of people,
And
but
that
I guess
gets
most
us.
people aren't in. So
Yeah. It's a select few out there. And that gets us to week 21, Dave.
week
Thirty-one
21, what
now. Yeah.
21?
21.
It's slipping away.
Dave, just
The hell
3
happened?
games left on the season, bro.
Wow.
Goes by way
Nuts.
too fast. Way too fast. But coming
So
up
crazy.
this Sunday, January 26th, 2025, we're going to get it started in the NFC. It is the NFC Championship. The 6th-seeded Washington Commanders at the number 2-seeded Philadelphia Eagles. Those Eagles are 4.5-point favorites in this game. And Dave, this is the third matchup between these teams, obviously both coming out of the NFC East. The Eagles won 26-18 at home in week 11, and the Durs evened that series with the 36-33 win in week 16 in Washington off of the Devontae Smith drop that preserved the win for them. But Dave, how did these Durs get here? What happened last week?
Yeah, it was an amazing game for Washington as they upset the Detroit Lions in a shootout there. Daniels had a spectacular performance, passing the ball and running the football. It was a nice combination of the running backs, Robinson and Eckler. Eckler receiving some football, and rushing. So he had about 80 or 90 yards. Robinson, a good game, 2 touchdowns for Robinson. Just a fantastic performance. Terry McLaurin on that screen where he took it super all the way, man.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Ertz got a TD there, so it was a fantastic performance. Unexpected, but absolutely brilliant.
And, they stomped those Lions 45-31, but
Yeah.
the Lions did shit they hadn't done all year, man. All those freaking turnovers, dude. And
Yeah.
it was a close game for most of it, despite all that, but just so uncharacteristic of that team. And Jahmyr Gibbs is the truth, baby. Oh
Oh,
my
Gibbs
God,
was
he's so
having a
good.
fantastic game. Just all the
Mhm.
turnovers, just you can't overcome that many. 3 picks for Goff, two other turnovers. The pass from
Jamison
the
Williams fumble. Dude, you already have 3 turnovers in the game. I hate that. Ben Johnson, I know they roll the dice, they do stuff,
yeah,
but you're already at a -3 in the turnover ratio
yeah.
or -4 at that point. It's a 10-point game, and you put a receiver in a position to play quarterback.
I don't
It's a
like it.
terrible call at that point.
Yeah. And Jamison Williams, just use him for what he does well. Use that speed.
We
He's
saw it earlier.
Yeah,
He
unbelievable on
house
that
actually.
on the huge touchdown run there. He could have taken that one the other way too and just run
Mhm.
it, and I would
Yeah,
have been thrilled. Instead, he throws it. You give a guy a chance to throw a football, and he takes it. You
yeah.
know, so mistake there.
And those Lions, man, just poor defense, really poor tackling out of position. I know they've been banged up over there, but just total bummer for them and that fan base. We already mentioned they lost Ben Johnson and they lost Aaron Glenn.
Yep.
So I don't know how it gets better than being the 1 seed at home, playing the 6th seed with all those weapons.
Yep.
It's brutal. But let's talk about the teams that are alive. Dave,
Yep.
this Washington offense, you alluded to it a little bit. Jayden Daniels so far in the postseason has been unstoppable.
No question, man. Both games he's played in here in this postseason have been absolutely outstanding. On the season, when you look at this team, they are fifth in points scored on the season, 28.5 points a game. So they are accustomed to lighting it up. And they put a ton of yards, or seventh in yards gained, 17th in the pass, but third in the run. So it's a really, really good running team. And of course, you always have the quarterback's legs, and you have some backs and stuff, of course, but when you got that running quarterback, it just always seems to, like, now your team can legitimately run the
Mhm.
ball and put some numbers up in the ground game. And this Washington team has got a nice tandem of backs there, and then when Jayden Daniels pulls it down, he is, lightning.
Yeah, dude, and he's not making any mistakes, and they've been super aggressive. They went for it on fourth down like 3 or 4 times. I know they got stopped on the first one, but that didn't get them off of what they wanted to do, and they continued to be aggressive. Cliff Kingsbury is doing a really nice job
Yeah,
with catering this offense to the skill set of Jayden Daniels. And you mentioned Terry McLaurin and Austin Eckler, but dude, like Zach Ertz had a few huge catches, and De'Ami Brown, dude,
we've
seemed
been
to come
talking
up with
about
some
him for the last
critical
handful of
plays.
weeks. Yes,
Yeah,
the last two games, he had a huge impact on the football game. He's really become. You need that other guy, and you got Zacchaeus, but he's questionable there. So having Diami Brown really stepping up his game right here during this playoff run has been outstanding. And yeah, Zach Ertz is the consummate pro, and he's still got
mm,
plenty left in the tank, obviously.
yeah, and like I said, they will go for it every time on fourth down.
Yeah,
If there is a deficiency on this offense, it's more special teams. Zane Gonzalez has been iffy at best. I think he's the sixth kicker for these Durs this season. So if it
yeah,
comes down to a field goal outdoor in Philly where it's going to be freezing cold, that might be bad news for these Durs, but they are riding with house money. But they're going to see a defense. I mean, they've played Philly a couple times and
yeah.
they put up some points, but this defense is taking it to another level, and they've been pretty damn good when they need to be. Philly got here by beating the Rams last week in a pretty awesome game in the snowstorm. Philly won that one 28-22. You got any thoughts on those Rams before you get to this Phillies defense?
Yeah, it's a team that could have won the Super Bowl. We did talk about that, just alluded to it briefly. Like, this is a team that could have won the Super Bowl again with Stafford and the way Sean McVay coaches those guys up. Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, Kyron Williams running the football. And that young, aggressive defense that they put on the field with all those draft picks hitting that they did. Yeah, um, it was, and they right at the end of the game, there they are. Puka makes a huge grab. They're down by 6. They almost steal this game away. That's how close it was.
They had that Philly defense on their heels,
Sure did.
sucking wind, and they slowed down when they should have
That's right.
kept the hammer down. And we're like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And they gave Philly time to kind of get their composure. And in that game, their two biggest stars, Kyron Williams and Matthew Stafford, both had a fumble
Yeah.
in that game due to the
Yep.
slick ball. Dude, if that was in regular field, they probably roll those Eagles. But like they've done all year, these Eagles on defense have gotten the stop when they had to do it. The Rams were driving and they did shut them down when it mattered
Yeah.
the most. Big play Slay, dude.
Yeah, and talking about this Eagles performance in that football game, really did not get the pass game going very much at all. Even in the last two games for this Eagles squad, the pass game has been very underwhelming. But it's a kind of a combination because when you're running the ball like they are with Barkley and even Hurts running the football, then you don't really, why pass it so much, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, Hurts had a huge run in that game early for a touchdown. Saquon Barkley ends up with more than 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So when you can run like that, you don't really have to pass. It'll be interesting to see if moving forward they do end up in a situation where they have to sort of find that passing game rhythm, because they haven't really had it for the last two games.
Mhm. And dude, we in that game, Jalen Hurts had that awkward tackle where he had the knee
Yes.
bent back. He's been questionable all week. There's no doubt he's going to go in this thing, but
Yep.
is that going to limit his mobility moving forward? And is he going to have to pass more?
Right. That's a good point. We shall see. They said he's a full go at practice. He's obviously going to play this football game. So uh, let's assume he's good to go. And, they can scheme up some good stuff. These Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are top notch receivers. You just got to make sure A.J. Brown's not too engrossed in his book and he's in the playbook instead. And they scheme up some good stuff for these guys. But I'm sure they're going to be effective on that side of the football. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about this Philadelphia defense as we head into this, because this defense has been absolutely exceptional this season. It's one of the top units in the NFL. Second in points per game, number one in yards given up per game, number one passing defense per game. This is what the Jayden Daniels and company are going to have to deal with. They're 10th against the run. So it's an all around very well balanced defense. And like you said, they got the stop against the Rams last week when they needed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a heck of a challenge for Jayden Daniels and company when they are facing a defense that's this well rounded that this Philadelphia Eagles are fielding.
Yeah, dude, that is an awesome defense. They got the big boys up front, and it's going to be tough to go in there and get that. And just real quick, back to the offense, you mentioned that it's been the whole run game. They haven't gotten a lot out of Brown and Smith, and they're still right here in the NFC Championship
Yeah.
without those contributions. So that could still be coming. But, dude, a big problem in this is those Commanders are 30th against the run. That's
Yes.
bad news. Barkley coming off a 200-yard game, dude.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, I mean, if this is kind of like if it all boils down to it, and the Eagles can run, and the Washington defense up against that cannot stop that run, then that's kind of going to be one of the biggest factors. That's going to be the first thing that Washington defensively is going to have to show. Hey, we're not going to get run over in this game, and then try and put it on Jalen Hurts and that passing offense of the Eagles and see, hey, we haven't seen it lately. Let's see if you guys can kick it into gear. But they cannot get, I mean, obviously, statistically speaking, you just mentioned it, they're not good at stopping the run.
Mm-mm.
So they have to commit to it. They have to find a way, whether scheme wise and such, to get bodies in place to commit to it. And it's not like the Rams last week didn't think, hey, we better stop Barkley, because the last time they played him, they got run over by Barkley too. So
Yeah.
it's not, you can say, hey, we know what the problem here is. We have to stop Barkley. That doesn't mean that you can even scheme it up or physically get it done.
Yeah, dude, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I don't think Philly's gonna turn the ball over 5 times. As good as the offense has been for the Durs,
Yeah.
I don't think they
Yeah.
can count on getting 5 turnovers from that Philadelphia offense.
Yeah, no question about that. So, ultimately, it's going to be both these teams love to run the football. If they're second and third, the Eagles second and the Commanders third at running the football. So it's going to come down to which team can run it. That's what I think. And then, ultimately, the team that's better at stopping the run is the Eagles. So can Jayden Daniels um, elevate his game? And really do some spectacular stuff. Or if for some reason the Eagles can't run, is Hurts and company going to be able to kick that passing game into gear?
Yeah, and as a Cowboys fan, Dave, this is the worst case scenario for an
Yeah.
NFC championship.
Yeah.
And with Washington getting in here, now the Cowboys are by themselves as the longest drought between conference championship game appearances.
Ooh.
So we're working on 30 years. It's all good. I'm sure we'll get there before I die, knock on wood, hopefully. But I cannot root for Washington to win this game, and I only root for Philly to lose. And the reason why is because I'm a petty man, Dave, because I want all those Philadelphia Eagle fans freezing cold to go home sad. So I'm not rooting for Washington to win. I'm rooting for Philadelphia to lose.
Got it.
All right. All right. Let's go ahead and flip this over to the AFC Championship. It is the number 2 seed at Buffalo Bills at the 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs only a 1.5 favorite at home in this one, Dave. This is a rematch of the AFC Championship game from 2020. The Chefs won that one 38-24.
Yeah.
They played this year in Buffalo, and the Bills won that one 30-21. Dave, Mahomes versus Allen, 4-4 heads up. That's pretty good,
Sounds
right?
good, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any big butts on that?
Yeah, there's a huge butt, huge ass, I'll tell you. Buffalo 0-3 in the playoffs versus Kansas City. So when it really matters, obviously, that's when Patrick Mahomes and company step it up and take care of business. That's why they keep going to the Super Bowls and the Bills don't.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start with these Bills on offense. Didn't do a whole lot last week against the Ravens. That's a pretty damn good defense, but every time they needed something to happen, they figured out a way to get it done. Josh Allen's probably gonna lose the MVP to Lamar.
Yeah.
I could see either of those guys getting it, but is there anything this guy can't do besides so far beat these Chiefs in the playoffs?
Right? I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, he's been amazing. He didn't get a ton of rushing yards last week, which when we think of it, oh, like he's going to just put the team on his shoulders, but he
Yeah.
did have 2 rushing touchdowns. So when they got close, he finished the deal there. But yeah, not an absolutely prolific performance last week by any stretch. You know, he did get the ball spread around to a lot of different receivers. But we'll see if they can get all of those guys involved. It seemed like Amari Cooper didn't have a catch last week. Surprising. Shakir has really turned out to be one of those kind of prominent playmakers for them. And then, of course, the running back, James Cook, running the football and out of the backfield. And then the other 2 backs, Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, also really contributing in positive ways.
Yeah, you didn't mention Mac Hollins coming up to the game barefoot in his beach attire, dude. That guy is awesome. And just to go back
Crazy.
real quick, last week, the Bills won that game 27-25. Obviously, the Ravens had the chance for 2 to tie it up. There's no doubt in my mind, though, with a minute and a half left, that Josh Allen was going to lead them down there to go ahead and do those Ravens.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought as bad as the Bills have been against the run, they got it done when they needed to last week. Only 16 carries though for Derrick Henry. We've talked about this all season that Derrick Henry doesn't have
Somebody should
20
be
to
fired,
25
we said,
somebody
if
should
they
be
go
fired.
under 20. I don't
16,
know
dude.
who.
And that
Mistake.
Bills defense though,
Yeah,
they made the plays when they had to. They got the
they sure did.
turnovers, they got the
Yeah,
stops, and it doesn't have to be pretty in the playoffs. You just got to get it done.
yeah. No, the fumbles were crucial. The Andrews pop, they punched that thing out. The Lamar fumble also critical. So, like you said, this Bills defense, opportunistic to say the least.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, not a whole lot out of Josh Allen last week, 16 to 22, 127 yards, no passing touchdowns, but no interceptions. And it
Yeah,
wasn't a lot of yards, Dave, but I see 2 tutties right there
yeah,
for Josh Allen.
yeah. That's the touchdowns. That's the thing. When they get close, they can do that. Push play just as well as anybody, really. So he's a big dude. When he gets down there, again, he can move the chains and he
Yeah,
can
and
get
they're
it
going
in
to
the
have
end
to
zone.
do some good work when they go there to Kansas City. And last week, the Chefs, they got past the Texans. That was kind of expected. They won that one 23-14. We got that last second safety by the Texans on the punt to get past that 9 point to change that point spread there. It looked like the Chiefs started a little bit slow,
Yeah.
but they made the plays when they had to against those Texans, especially with that defense.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the offensive stats for the Chiefs, they're not, no, they don't jump out at you. But what you do know is the way that Spags and has got that defense cranking. Chris Jones, Karlaftis, Menahu. I mean, dude after dude was absolutely haunting C.J. Stroud there. I think they got him 8 times
Ugh.
down to the ground for sacks. And I mean, it's not just sacks. Sacks are a nice number, but it's all of the pressures that they put on him. They contained Joe Mixon last week, so they did a great job defensively. The Chiefs did really sort of taking care of uh, uh, dictating really how this game was going to unfold.
Yeah, and McDuffie, stud, one of the best young DBs
Oh, 3
in the
passes
league.
defended in that game, which is
Wow.
outrageous, for
Yeah.
a single game. He is just an absolute shutdown corner.
Yeah, and you mentioned Karlaftis. I think he had 3 sacks, including the one that on 4th down that shut down that last Texans drive. So, as we've seen these Chiefs, they can be susceptible to the run, but if you get in passing situations, you mentioned all those pass rushers there. What does that Buffalo offense have to do to exploit that Chiefs defense? Is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. Well, it certainly is possible. I mean, the Bills are second in the league at scoring nearly 31 points a game. So it's not like they haven't played any defenses out there. Now, this is a good Chiefs defense, no question, but they have a nice balance. Um, they are ninth in passing and ninth in rushing. So the Bills really, really come at you. You can't make them one dimensional
Mhm.
really and shut down one phase of their game. um, they are 10th in the league at gaining yards. So, um, they can get you with long, slow drives where they grind it out, or they can explode with explosives and get into the end zone quickly in a drive. So, a lot of different ways that this Buffalo Bills team can put points on the board. No question.
And you mentioned what they've done all year is take care of the damn football. No turnovers last
Yep.
week, very few over the season. We're going to see Josh Allen have to do a lot of running in this game. If
Hmm.
they take care of the ball, it's going to make this game pretty close. Now let's go ahead and flip this over to Kansas City on offense. Kind of just like ho hum through the regular season, but we knew that was to be expected. Battled through a shit ton of injuries, and
Hmm.
then when it comes time to make that money in the postseason, they do what they need to do. Little help from the refs, but other than that, they're earning it all.
Yeah, the Chiefs and refs are a great team, no question. Um, yeah, oh man, I'll tell you. Um, Yeah, they do get a lot of help from the refs. I guess the NFL likes having Taylor Swift in the audience there. Um, but you know what? They're obviously a great offense. We talked about. I know you were a fantasy guy who's having Kelsey for the last handful of seasons. In the beginning of this year, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 games into the season, you're like, man, this guy has just lost a step. No, he was just sort of biding his time. And also another thing about it is the receivers, they haven't put up huge numbers really, any specific receivers or anything, but they've got like a fleet of receivers that have gotten healthy for them. And I think that those guys have come around and that's taken some of the pressure off of Kelsey, and that has left him a little bit. You can't double Kelsey and then you let Xavier Worthy or DeAndre Hopkins or now Hollywood Brown. I mean, these are other weapons that are now kind of all being brought out, and they can get you in every different way and give Andy Reid a lot of different weapons, and man, they'll pick you apart.
And dude, this team, especially offensively, is a chameleon. 14th
Hmm.
in passing all season, 22nd in rushing, but 6th in time of possession. So they
Hmm.
are grinding that clock, not
Yeah.
giving opposing offenses time with the ball. And it's
And
like,
one of the things we've said over and over again, and it's so frustrating, it could be 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13. Mahomes will run for one more yard than
mhm.
you need, than they needed, and they'll move the chains that way. And like you said, they're not necessarily doing it in the traditional way where they're grinding out. If it's a 10-play drive, it could be some passes, some runs. Mahomes moves the chains when he does. You find Kelsey in the seam. They just do whatever it takes to keep the ball moving down the field and put up points.
Yeah, and it's the experience there, the brain trust between Reed and Mahomes,
Yeah.
and then Mahomes and Kelsey is just off the charts. And now, dude, I think Kareem Hunt and Pacheco, they've kind of eased him back in, didn't really have a
Both
big role last
healthy.
week.
Yeah.
Watch him start rolling this cat out and doing even more. And D Hop was quiet last week too.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
worries me for the
I think this
opposing
is the
team.
healthiest the Chiefs have been all season, ultimately, where really there's basically nobody is not going to be available to them. So they're going to be able to pick and choose which matchups they like out there, which guys that they want to target on that Buffalo defense, and see how they can deploy their different weapons. And obviously, the thing about the Chiefs is, and we know this to be true over and over and over watching the Chiefs, if they are within a score near the end of the game, they are 100% confident that they're going to win the football game. That
Absolutely.
is the last game they lost to the Bills, which it might have been the last game they actually lost. I think they've won all of their home games the Chiefs have this year.
Yeah.
The game that they lost to the Bills, it was because of spectacular Josh Allen play towards the end of that to put them up by 2 scores
Yeah.
with not enough time on the clock for Mahomes to score twice. It's as simple as that. That's the secret to get to beating these guys. Somehow finding a way to have a 2-score lead with not enough time for 2 possessions.
And then you flip it over to that Bills defense is going to try to have to make some plays here. They're not great at anything really,
Mm.
but they're opportunistic and they make the plays when they have to have them.
Yeah, they are 5th in the league in interceptions with 16 on the season. And like we talked about the turnover ratio, they have the 20, what is it, 35 takeaways on the season. So, yeah, they're definitely, opportunistic, and certainly when their offense, that was the kind of the Achilles heel before, is that Josh Allen was always going to make some kind of mistake. Well, that's not happening
Mm-mm.
this season, and therefore now they're cashing in on winning the turnover battle. How do you beat the Chiefs? Yeah, you want to win the turnover battle, so that will be a crucial element to this game. You're right; they don't do anything specifically exceptionally well, statistically speaking, on defense. In fact, 24th in the league against the pass in this one. So that's going to be an area where they're really going to have to be careful, to try and contain this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, and the Ravens moved the ball pretty much at will last week, but they
Hmm.
got the huge Lamar fumble. Von
Yep.
Miller picks it up, set up a touchdown. They got the interception early off Lamar, and then late in that game, knocking the ball away from Andrews. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
if they can create those turnovers and not turn it over, that's also a formula to try to beat these damn Chiefs.
And like you said, in the bigger picture of things, when you go to the Super Bowl and you go to the Super Bowl, that's a lot of football games. It's a lot of wear and tear. And I know you're resting plenty this week and getting ready for the football game, but there's a reason that people don't win the Super Bowl over and over and over again. It's because it's a damn hard thing to do. And
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe this is the Bills. This is their time. Who knows? It could be, because this seems like a really, a super exceptional Bills squad right now.
Yeah. Oh, just a couple years ago, they were 13 seconds away. They
Yep.
thought they were going. So,
Ah,
sometimes, dude, it takes not getting there in your biggest moment to learn how to do it.
yeah,
Like those losses build character and build callous, and then you figure out a way. Man, it would be so exciting to see that happen for these guys because it has been such an arduous process
yeah,
and they've come so close so many times that
yeah.
it
Not
kind
just
of
this
feels,
Bills squad. Think about the Bills fan base.
oh,
What they've gone
hungry.
through, right? If you're an
Oh,
older Bills fan,
and Bills Mafia, outstanding,
great,
making
great group.
donations to Mark Andrews charity. That's something we've seen the last few years
Cassie.
that they do. So
Yep.
they might be diving off of RVs and slamming into tables, but you gotta love the Bills Mafia.
Yep.
If there's a fan base that deserves it, you would have to say it's these guys. But the Chiefs also want to make history themselves. So
Whew.
so much riding on this game, Dave. I have to ask you, how stoked are you about this matchup?
Dude, I am completely stoked about this game.
It's going to be awesome. And a week from now, we will know who is going to the Super Bowl, and I cannot wait. But let's get these games first because they're slipping away, Dave. There's only 3. Oh, baby, man, it's going to be good. So many ways you can check out the football news, the trend zone, available for subscription: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Amazon Music.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us on Instagram, Facebook. Follow us on X at Football Dudes LA, and make sure you tag us across all social media
And while you're
platforms.
out there surfing the webs, go ahead and bookmark footballdudes.com. That is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. For Dave, I am Casey. Enjoy conference championship weekend, people. We are out of here.